Well, good evening and welcome to KTN Friday Briefing. My name is Edith Kimani. It's the 4th day of the month and the first night in prison for one of Bungoma's most wanted, who had been on the run for 3 months. Imagine that. Now, the story of his alleged crimes, his attitude in a packed courtroom, his accomplices, and exclusive footage of the den of the man Bungoma residents fearfully referred to as Rasto is coming to you in this hour. And in the red seat tonight is our guest anchor. We have a man whom controversy is always just a tweet away. There is an intelligence report which seems to suggest that State House Digital and New Media Director forged his qualifications. So the question is Dennis Itumbi qualified? Well, he says he's ready to take on all his challenges. He'll be coming your way shortly. Also in this bulletin, I'll be asking Willis, the word master, the difference in pronunciation between some fairly confusing words. Friday Briefing begins right now. And we begin with yet another tragedy involving suspected poisonous alcohol. 6 people have died after consuming alcohol at a bar in Nairobi's Kayole estate. Now, among those who've been confirmed dead are 3 women who died right inside the bar where they were drinking. It is reported that 3 men passed away in their houses after leaving the bar where they partook of a drink allegedly called Queen's. Police are, however, yet to confirm if indeed there were any poisonous substances inside this drink in that particular bar.
Siku ya leo tumekuja tuungane ili tushikane na raia na ndiposa hizo vifo za wamama ziache kufanyika huku. Tunataka kusema pombe haramu hatutaki.
Jana kunaye watu walikunywa pombe na asubuhi ya leo wameamka kuwa wengi wamekufa. Kiwango ya kiasi ya watu kama 6 hivi, lakini sina hakika ni namba ya watu gapi, lakini asubuhi kabisa wale niko na hakika wamekufa walikuwa wamama 3, lakini nasikia idadi ni kama imeongezeka pia.
Kabla raia ishikane, jona tukishikana tuseme tunamaliza. Serikali kama itaweza kuintervene, haitaingilia, hatutaweza. Lakini wakikataa mambo ya kuchukua kitu kidogo, wakuja waseme ni hapa watu wamekufia. Hii kitu kwanza ifungwe for the time being, itasaidia. Lakini hata wamama wakishikana waseme ni mara ngapi wameshikana kutoka Kiambu, wapi kwa kina Mutudho, watu wamepinga, but still watu wanakufa. Mpaka lini? Swali ni mpaka lini watu watakufa sababu ya pombe haramu?
Ningependa kusema hata machupa zinauzwa, zinawekwa mapombe. Na hizo pombe ni zile pombe haramu, hata zinatengenezewa kwa manyumba. Zinakuja zinawekwa tu kwa machupa na zinaitwa majina. Hizo pombe hizo machupa zinaoshwa, alafu zinawekwa lebo. Sasa mtu akikuja ajui ni gani anakunywa. Juu kama ulisikia ati Queens ni mzuri, unakunywa ukidhani ni Queens na sio Queens.
A truly sad state of affairs. Elsewhere, police have arrested a man suspected to have been behind the murder of a woman and her 3 daughters in Bungoma. Now, the suspect, identified as Rasto Wanyama, was found hiding in a forest near the pan paper mills in Rubia. Wilkis Tanyabo has the details.
For the last 3 months, this forest has provided a refuge for a man on the run together with his 2 alleged accomplices. But even here, a few kilometers from the defunct Webuye Pan Pepper Mill, they would find that they were not beyond the reach of the long arm of the law. Officers from the flying squad launched an operation that ended with the arrest of the 3. The main suspect, who goes by the name Rasto, is believed to have had a hand in the murder of a woman and her 3 daughters, which occurred in Bungoma town on the night of April 15th. Before the attack, the woman had claimed that Rasto had threatened her. He went missing after the incident.
Mshukiwa mkuu aliyehusika na mauaji ya marehemu Mama Agneta na watoto wake 3 katika sehemu ya Wekeleka ambayo tulikuwa tukimtafuta, mwishowe ameweza kupatikana.
The 3 were taken straight to court, the courtroom overflowing with persons seeking to satisfy their curiosity. The charges were read out to them. They were thereafter escorted to the Bungoma prison, where they will remain until their case comes up for mention.
Bali na kumpata Rasto, nataka pia niwaambie kuna wenzake walikuwa wamefanya hiyo kitendo pamoja.
The murder of the woman and her daughters sent shockwaves through Bungoma town, which was enjoying a lull after a crime wave swept through it. The arrest of Rasto is expected to put to rest questions surrounding the mysterious deaths. However, the state of insecurity in the county remains a matter of concern. Wilkison Yabwa, KTN.
Let's now go to the politics of Saba Saba, and the core team held their rallies in Kisii and Busia counties today, telling their supporters that they strongly believed the Saba Saba push was a noble cause. KTN's Francis Ontomo reports from Busia.
Setting the tempo, called leaders in beginning the last leg of Western Kenya circuit rallies before the grand finale to Uhuru Park on Monday, as the coalition sought to assemble a powerful finish in psyching up the nation.
Sisi tunasema lazima ni lazima. Nikamwambia ndugu yangu Uhuru Kenyatta. Nimeona kama mawingu yametanda. Dalili ya mvua ni nini? Kitanda ni ishara ya kwamba kutanyesha.
Asilimia 80 ya Kenya wacha kikundi kidogo wanataka devolution, serikali ambazo zimeletwa mashinani waongezwe pesa ndio tumalize umaskini. Na mambo haya hatuwezi kuendelea na watu ambao nia yao ni kuhifadhi tu mamlaka yao.
As if to once again drive home the agenda for their rallies, Raila echoed the coalition's grievances, insisting that their quest for dialogue was rational and had captured the voices of the majority.
Wanasema tu Raila mtusi rais.
CORD warmed up its supporters, poking holes in the Jubilee government's performance so far and accusing them of giving a cold shoulder to the clamor for dialogue.
Wakati wa mzee Kibaki, mimi na Raila na Kibaki tuliweka vijana wetu kazi. Na mnisikize kimakini kabisa, mjue kama wale wakora wana nia njema kwetu.
The vexed question of the implementation of the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission's report was another sticky affair that the coalition said featured strongly in its set of agendas. The question of national inclusivity also stirred things up.
Alafu kuna report inaitwa Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission report ambayo ilichukua pesa mingi kutayarishwa. Alafu hiyo report ikakadhibiwa Uhuru. Sasa manake kuna na majina mengine yalitajwa pale, wakaenda wakatoa. Alafu sasa wanatoa ile ambayo inaitwa watered down report.
Despite the condemnation of their rallies in some quarters, CORD insists that theirs is a cause strongly grounded within the law. They had begun their day in Kisii County before winding up in Busia. 2 days away from CORD's much-hyped Saba Saba rally, and the coalition insists that there's no backing down on this cause. Francis Ontomo, KTN, Busia County.
We're still talking Saba Saba, but right now let's have a look at it in retrospect. We take you back to 1990 when the first Saba Saba rally produced some of the heroes of multi-partyism, some of whom paid a heavy and painful price for their activism. Now, one such person is Charles Rubia. KTN spoke exclusively to Rubia and his son Mike Rubia today. And Rubia, who was detained for orchestrating the Saba Saba crusade, says he is dismayed by CORD. Let's find out why.
I don't mind people using word Saba Saba, but if you're using it as akin to what you are doing now, I take issues with that. It is dividing people. Our aim, which was achieved, was to unite people. The Saba Saba of 1990. This one, which is being proposed, which is going to be done, if they're going to divide the country. Already the country is divided. And of that, I don't subscribe to that.
Bei ya sukari iko juu. Bei ya soda iko juu. Kodi ya nyumba iko juu.
It is true, we have these problems. But what I'm saying, how do you achieve what you want to do by having a political rally, which is already divided the country?
We are telling our brother Uhuru, things are bad. Usilalie masikio.
You will not reduce the killings by having a political rally. So I would advise my friend Raila, who was, as you know, detained, he was with us and so on, that reduce the tension. Don't by organizing a rally, it's a rally against individuals, it would seem. Because if it is against the failure of a government as such, there are institutions to handle that. And you can do that using those forums. But as it is as if they're saying the government is a failure, no confidence in government.
We are the alternative government. Na tukisungumuza tunasungumuza sauti ya wananchi wa Kenya.
Mind you, recently, Kalonzo Musyoka, Raila Odinga, James Orengo were in the same government. The last parliament. They were with Uhuru also. They were also with Ruto. So there are people who know one another, and it makes me very suspicious that they must have a hidden agenda, because they are really playing with the intelligence of Kenyans. They are the same people. They are the parliament, in the same government, all of them, Jubilee and Accord. And they are the big players. And some of the problems they are talking about were there. They should have tackled them there then. And I'm not saying the problems are here. I agree. That one I agree. But it's a question of dividing the people that I'm worried about.
Waswahili wanasema atukiona kama jirani yako ananyolewa, na wewe anza kutia maji kichwa chako. La sivyo, tarehe 7 mwezi wa 7 utanyolewa bila maji.
And if there is any issues concerning the country, not individuals, but the country itself, there are institutions under the current constitution to tackle them. So in that respect, I would say, in fact, all that we fought for is available. What we have to do is to apply and exercise our rights under the new constitution, for which a lot of people died. A lot of us were imprisoned and in bad health. As you can see now, I'm now 90 plus. I was imprisoned when I was nearly 70 years. Now that was very hurting. And to be brief about what your question, yes, the present situation should not be likened or be akin to so-called Saba Saba.
Some very strong opinions coming from Charles Rubia on what he thinks of CORD's push for a Saba Saba Day rally. Well, in light of that, we're asking you on our big question this evening, do you agree with Rubia that CORD is reversing the gains of the first Saba Saba rally? Do you agree with Rubia that CORD is reversing the gains of the first Saba Saba rally? Feel free to send us your comments on our SMS number 2215. You could also speak to us on Twitter. Our handle is at KTN Kenya, or speak to me directly on at Edith_Kimani. Okay, we're still on Saba Saba, and Kikuyu elders today performed a ritual to bless Uhuru Park grounds. But with just 2 days left to the rally, more and more concerned groups called on all politicians to refrain themselves from inciting the public.
These were the scenes earlier today at Uhuru Park when a group of Kikuyu religious leaders performed a traditional ceremony to cleanse the grounds ahead of Monday's Saba Saba rally. But even as this was going on, the Inter-Parliamentary Group caucus that has been trying to harmonize the issues between the two political sides reported that it had failed to meet with the Jubilee side.
We started trying yesterday, and we will keep trying. But trying is all we can do.
Things that they are talking about, doesn't concern the political parties or politicians alone. It concerns us. And therefore, within that framework of having that national dialogue, and I think it's a good thing to do, I think they should be looking at a very much more inclusive forum where these things can be discussed, not in a political rally.
On our part, it's a question of asking our leaders, how do you engage on issues that concerns Kenyans but in a manner that does not continue to create cleavages among different ethnic groups.
The Saba Saba Day rally announced during Raila Odinga's return from the United States has seen its fair share of support as well as opposition.
Hatutaki mikutano ya Saba Saba kwa sababu wananchi wote hata wa hapa Mombasa wamekataa, hawataki mambo ya Saba Saba.
Iwe tuko na Saba Saba ama hatuna Saba Saba, lazima tujifunze kuishi na amani.
Kwa wale watu ambao wamesema wanataka kwenda Saba Saba, wako na uhuru wa kwenda Saba Saba, kwa sababu nchi ya Kenya sisi zote tuna tofauti ya maoni.
University student leaders have also warned politicians not to use the Saba Saba rally as an excuse to incite youth into violence.
This country belongs to Kenyan citizens. Therefore, all the politicians must respect Kenya.
Students do study from various regions of the country, not necessarily from which they were born in. As of right now, most are wondering, is it really safe for them to be there?
In the meantime, prayers continue. The Uhuru Park venue will be used tomorrow for the national interdenominational prayers.
Let's move away from Saba Saba and look at another issue of cattle rustling. And most boys who are born into communities that traditionally raid their neighbors for cattle are forced into the practice as they grow up. But tonight, KTN's Mercy Kandia brings us a story of a small group of boys who have chosen to defy their culture and put down their guns to take a different path into adulthood. Take a look.
Class is attended with zeal, the desire to change the course of their lives etched on their faces and also buried deep in their hearts. Seated at the corner of the class is Paul Lokupus. His friend and roommate Fabiano Loremoy sits on the extreme end, listening keenly. They have chosen to trade in their guns used in cattle rustling for the book and the pen.
Watu wengi tena kwa hiyo vita walikufa. Lakini sikuweza kukufa, nilibahatika tu. Yaani bahati yangu tu ile wenzangu. Lakini nilikuwa najua tu kama ningesidisidi ningefuata wale wanakufa kwa.
Education is the weapon they have now at the Exodus Educational Rescue Center, them and others here. The story of these two, however, changes when they head home, or rather what they call home for now.
Tuchukue na kamba, hii blada inatusaidianga hii. Hivi. Unaona hivi. Ngaja upenge. Wacha usiku unaweka hasa hivi. Angalia hapo. Hivi. Hivyo ndio unafanya. Hivi ndio tunafanyanga usiku. Alafu inatusaidia, inamulikia kila mtu akisema unimulikie unafanya hivi. Hivi.
Hata akisema umulikie.
Unisaidie umulikie unafanya hivi. Acha kunisumbua bana. Niko nafanya yangu pia. Unaleta yako. Suri muliki huko. Unaleta huko. Mulika huko, unaleta huko.
One of their roommates is away to look for a politician who had promised to help with the fees, 7,000 shillings. They hope he returns with some good news. Unlike their numerous visits before, this house was given to them by a well-wisher for 2 weeks. They have 1 more week here.
Mara ya kwanza kabla tujapata hii nyumba, tulikuwa tunalala wapi? Kwa yenyewe. Sasa mara unakaa siku 2 hivi, mtu amekasirika. Anasema nyumba yangu imekuwa kubwa. Kwani huko shule hakuna nyumba ya kulala? Naanza kujua dalili ya mvua ni mawingu.
Pande ya chakula sasa ilikuanga shida ni kubahatisha tu. Either leo upate usipate. Kama juzi tulipata mwalimu tukaambia leo tunalala bure. Akatubea 50. Tukaenda kununua hiyo unga ya kwata hiyo ya 25. Alafu tukanunua mboga na mafuta ya 10.
They use the daylight as much as they can, demonstrating how they sleep at night. Despite the challenges, they are not moved. Their hope is enough, they say. They see some light at the end of the tunnel.
Sasa hatuwezi ati tukakata tamaa turudi huko tena. Hapana, je, tukienda huko hakuna chenye tutaenda kufanya tena. Either ni kukata makaa ama ni kufanya nini. Tumeamua tu tuvumilie. Bora tu ili msee atupe nyumba. Tutumie ito jetu kama bado iko na waka kidogo tusome.
Tunaambiana kwamba hakuna wanaume, hii ndio maisha. Tukipata kazi tukikuwa tu tukiwa starehe yetu, tunakumbuka hii maisha. Tukikunya tu poa ama tukifanya nini tukiwa kazi yetu. Ukiwa ofisi fulani unanipigia wewe jamaa ngoja tukutane mahali fulani.
The school started early this year with volunteering teaching staff, teaching 98 students from vulnerable backgrounds, escaping either early marriage or FGM. The girls stay with guardians or relatives. After this class, the school will serve lunch, the only meal of the day perhaps, but what is gained in class will hopefully take them miles ahead in life.
Among other things, education is said to be power. These young boys and girls on a daily basis come to class to attain this power to hopefully change their future into a successful one amidst the backdrop of a challenging past. Marcy Kandie, KTN at Exodus Rescue Educational Center, Kapenguria, West Pokot County.
Trust Marcy Kandie to go where the story is and bring it to you. Let's have a look at something else now. And more than 285 people with physical disabilities in Busia County today received assistive devices from the Nikofiti Ability Beyond Disability campaign. Now, the campaign, spearheaded by the Kenya Reinsurance Corporation, aims at providing assistive devices to persons living with disability in order to enable them engage in social and economic nation-building activities. The devices range from wheelchairs, special seats, tricycles, canes, crutches, prosthetics, and polio boots. The Kenya Re Cooperative Affairs Manager, Mercy Imunde, said the campaign this year is targeting more than 700 physically challenged people. She challenged the disabled to come out in large numbers to register with the Association of Persons with Disability Kenya, or APDK, to be able to access aid funds.
The objective of the campaign is to enable you to be accessible, to be able to move so that you can go about your businesses well, and also be able to participate in other social activities. For those who are going to school, we hope that the device that you have received today will enable you to continue with your studies in a more comfortable way. And so this year, the company has set aside over 30 million Kenya shillings to provide devices.
Nimewapigia tu asante sana kunipatia baskili. Sasa niko na fry now. Hata kama ingekuwa kuku ningewapea, lakini saa hizi na kuku vile nimetembea niko bure.
Now, one of the people who emerged as a hero after the 1990 Saba Saba Day is Charles Rubia. And today he spoke exclusively to KTN and said that the push by court to have a Saba Saba rally is actually reversing the gains of the first Saba Saba rally. And that's our question tonight. Do you agree with this opinion? Send us an SMS to 22155 or talk to us on Twitter at KTN Kenya. We'll be right back after this short break. And when we come back, my guest anchor lives on this thing. He's constantly tweeting on line, doing stuff, and he ought to. We'll be finding out why when we come back. Welcome back to KTN Friday Briefing. Now, the Ministry of Lands projects to collect 18 billion shillings in revenue this financial year following reorganization of its records management system at the head office. Lands Cabinet Secretary Charity Ngilu said the ministry has reduced turnaround time in registration of property from 73 days to just 16 days. Patrick Amimo has the story.
The Ministry of Lands has reorganized its 3 registries at the ministry's head office. In May, the ministry stopped operations at the records registries for 10 working days and retrieved over 1.3 million files in the 3 registries. The reorganization process has seen the ministry set up open place service areas, enhance security around the building, and enhance security of files and records. The ministry has dismissed criticism that the 10-day closure may have resulted in loss of revenue due to the exchequer.
But so many people who, out of the confusion and the disorder that we have been experiencing in this ministry, have just been making money out of others. We have increased our revenue collections to over 1 billion Kenya shillings per month. The ministry projects to raise at least 18 billion Kenya shillings in this financial year of 2014-2015.
In the last financial year that ended June 30th, the Ministry of Lands collected 11.3 billion shillings in revenue at the headquarters. The ministry plans to reorganize and automate 10 key registries in Mombasa, Kajiado, Thika, Kisumu, Eldoret, Nakuru, Machakos, Kwale, Kilifi, and Kiambu. Even as the ministry promises to reorganize operations and enhance service delivery, it is feared that wrangles between the Cabinet Secretary and the National Lands Commission could jeopardize efforts to address issues like historical land injustices, land grabbing, and irregular allocation of land. The Supreme Court is yet to give a ruling on the powers and functions of the National Lands Commission against those of the Cabinet Secretary and hopefully end the tough wars.
For your land to be registered and for you to get a title deed, it has got to be done by the national government, not by any other body. So when people try to give themselves functions that they are not supposed to give themselves, that only brings more confusion into the land sector.
A World Bank report released last year on the ease of doing business ranked Kenya at position 163 out of 189 countries. One of the factors for the low ranking was that it took an average of 73 days to register property in Kenya.
And we can now register property in a record of 16 days.
Gilu said the titling program at the National Titling Center is ongoing in Ruaraka and promised to start issuing titles across the country soon. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
Tourism, Commerce and East African Affairs Cabinet Secretary Phyllis Kandie has said she is impressed by the enthusiasm shown by Africans during the tour of the Kenyan stand at the ongoing Smithsonian Cultural Festival that's being held in the U.S. Capitol. Speaking at the Kenyan Pavilion at the National Mall in Washington, Kandie said despite a myriad of challenges faced by Kenya, most Americans are still eager to learn about Kenyans, the way of the Kenyans. The CS affirmed that many Americans are not heeding to negative publicity and travel advisories. The Kenyan government is viewing the Smithsonian Festival as an opportunity to showcase Kenya and drum up support for the country's tourism industry. The 10-day Smithsonian Folklore Festival has seen various Kenyan cultures showcased, including Kenyan cuisines, music and artwork. Many curious Americans have been flocking the Kenyan stand to know about the land of their president's father.
Yes, today it's been so lovely visiting the different stands. My husband is from Kenya, so I was especially excited to come visit today and get a taste of more of the food and the arts and everything like that.
I think the festival is going on well. There's a massive interest from the American public. Many have been able to take their holiday time, be able to come down to Washington, D.C. and actually come and witness the Kenyan cultural heritage as well as different art forms and performances and showcasing of different cultural practices of the Kenyan country. So it is quite well in terms of the numbers and even the response of the people who come to the different stages where different Kenyan stories and cultural presentations are being done.
We came to meet the people. And what we have, the message we have received is, yes, they would like to come to Kenya and they're coming to Kenya. In fact, during these cultural festivals, people are looking for an opportunity to book, their visit to Kenya immediately.
What connects Mandela, what connects Clinton, Obama, and our president, everybody, they all come from Kenya. They're all Kenyans. So we say, welcome back home, all Americans. But the Origin of Mankind here was the most popular site for families.
Is the State House Digital and New Media Director. Thanks for joining us. Pleasure. But my first question to you is, what did you do to people? Let me begin with a question on Twitter, your playing field. That guy Aaron says, this Friday briefing might sound fishy because your guest, Ole Itumbi, is government's lying pen. Where did that come from?
Oh, well. Alan, I'm an easy guy. When do you want to have coffee?
No, but I mean, where did this come from? It must have come from somewhere. People think you're the propaganda machine of the Jubilee government.
Actually, I expected the first question to be who you are, and that actually fits on it. So when I was coming here, I actually Googled myself, and I realized I'm not only controversial, I'm also, to some, interesting, and most of all, to some, approachable. So I think it's not too bad. I think it started somewhere. Some people just thought that since you couldn't reach Dennis, then he is controversial because I was at one time arrested for Dennis, ICC stuff and hacking.
Hold on. You've gone so far. You've brought in a myriad of issues, but you haven't answered the question. Are you the propaganda machine for the Jubilee government, as Twitter seems to claim?
Oh, well, that question on propaganda has no set answer. I can only let people believe what they want.
Fine, so let's go to some pretty straightforward questions. Are you qualified for the job? NIS seems to suggest that your documents were forged.
Okay, first of all, I've not seen the NIS document. I saw a suggestion that someone had seen it in one of the leading newspapers in Kenya. Am I qualified for the job? First of all, I did not apply for a job in State House. I did not. It was a head-hunting job. We have a presidential system now. In every presidential system, even in the United States, the president comes in with his people. So, in terms of the job description, in terms of what I'm supposed to do, what I was shown I'm supposed to do, what I was told I'm supposed to achieve, perfectly qualified. Did I forge papers from the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication? KTN studio alone, KTN newsroom alone is evidence that I went to school. I mean, I went to school with a lot of people in here. And did I really finish school?
Doesn't mean that you finished, though.
No, I finished with them.
To be fair.
We finished with them. We sat with them exams. Some of them we collected our certificates together. So, I mean, there is evidence.
Okay. So let's deal with the controversial first before we get to the easy stuff. All right. You brought up ICC. People said that you hacked the ICC website and their emails. Is this true?
I sued the ICC. In fact, you go to the ICC website, I have sued them. There's a paper there, and they have also done a judgment on that issue after I sued them. They said they are not the ones who are directed the arrest, and that is the Kenyan government. I then sued the Kenyan government, and the AG has now filed something in the courts to say it's not him who did it. So I'm going back to the ICC to say that I'm now lying to Kenyans. Did I hack the ICC website? I leave that to history to judge.
Your answers are being very vague this evening. You're being very careful. You're like, let everyone judge. You tell us. You're the one with the answers.
No, I mean,
are you a hacker, though? I mean, it doesn't matter if you hacked the ICC emails, but are you a hacker? Are you able to professionally get into people's private information without their knowledge?
Without their knowledge, maybe not.
You're so shifty. Okay. And then there's the question of where did you take fellow blogger Bogonko Bosire? People say that you're the reason why he disappeared.
Wow. Let me start that answer from the end. Bogonko Bosire used to live in a hostel in college next to mine, and on his door he had written, "The dwellers of the city do not understand the feelings of the village hunter." He is a good friend of mine, very good friend of mine. When he disappeared, we combined as classmates, including again people who work in KTN. We combined. We did all that is humanly possible to look for him. We've not given up. Right now I have contacts of almost all the mortuaries in Kenya because I call once in a while to see whether the bodies that have come that have not been identified. We have done all that is possible. I mean, all I can say at this moment is that out of our reports to the police, I know last week there was contact, and we were advised to follow up with them, and because they said they had someone who had given them information, and they have since recorded a statement. The search for Bogonko Bosire is on. There is no way a person so prominent as Bogonko, so humorous as Bogonko, can get lost and you keep quiet. So we followed all the institutional processes. We have not given up.
But you're not responsible for his disappearance, in short.
Of course not.
And then do you tweet on behalf of the president, is what someone was asking.
The president is on Twitter. He tweets. I do not tweet on behalf of the president.
Okay.
But I tweet for institutions that the president governs along on.
That's sorted. And then there is, who are you dating? Because there are people who are saying that you and Yvonne Okwara, who works for this station, by the way, are having a very heated affair.
Yeah, we have a very serious social media affair with Yvonne Okwara. We tweet each other, we WhatsApp each other. Who knows? Maybe life will give in, and who minds Yvonne Okwara anyway? So, I mean, brilliant stuff.
Okay, I think that was an invitation for her. I think I
actually thought she was going to be here. I came with a box.
A wedding ring?
Yeah, I wanted to propose on KTN Live, but unfortunately she escaped before I got in.
And also taken, unfortunately for you. But we'll be having a discussion.
Did you have to do that?
Yes, I did. We'll be having a discussion on your life. You have a very interesting past. And for you to then be the director for digital content in State House, I think that's impressive. But first, we have to test your reading skills. So I want you to look at camera 2, camera 4 actually. Camera 4, and introduce yourself. Tell us who you are. Please feel free to leave out all those controversial statements and then go ahead and read the intro.
Dennis Itumbi at Ole Itumbi, the Director, Digital, New Media and Diaspora Communications, State House and Government of Kenya. a therapist pours alcohol over a patient and sets him alight. For some in China, playing with fire is a treatment for illness. Here is more on this riveting story.
On fire isn't necessarily life-threatening. On the contrary, some people actually consider it good for you. Using fire, or huoliao as it's referred to in China, is a form of alternative therapy that has been practiced for hundreds of years. There is no orthodox medical evidence that it is effective, but its promoters say it can treat stress and everything from depression to cancer to indigestion to infertility.
It's a combination of traditional Chinese medicine, Western medicine, health products, theory, scraping treatment, and reflexology.
Most forms of fire therapy involve the application of a secret herbal paste on the problem area, wetting a towel, soaking it in alcohol, then lighting it. Depending on the ailment, the treatment can last for up to 30 minutes.
I don't feel any pain. It just feels warm.
China's online community has been bewildered by the practice, cracking jokes like, "Sir, how well would you like your meat cooked?" But many Chinese people cannot afford expensive medical treatment, and state health insurance is limited, pushing them towards cheaper alternatives. Patients at Zhang's Beijing training clinic, where he charges around $48 an hour, swear by it.
The hospital treatment that I was getting was more damaging. It included injections and taking pills which my body couldn't handle. It did harm to other parts of my body, creating new problems when the previous ones hadn't been cured. Fire therapy isn't harming my other organs. I believe my condition has turned for the better.
Though it should be a simple, painless practice under a trained hand, sometimes it can go horribly wrong.
It's common for untrained practitioners to burn their patients, their faces, bodies, and some are even burnt to the point of paralysis. I've seen a lot of these cases online.
Still got that stiff neck? Next time, how about making an appointment to set it on fire? One thing's for sure, it will require nerves of steel.
We have a lot of feedback already on the questions I've been asking you, and some people saying that you are a hacker and that you're just like other government officials. Apparently, you play politics. How do you get away from this, though? Because I'm sure you're just trying to do your job. I don't know. I'm just...
criticism online is acceptable. I mean, people who don't have critics don't grow. For me, I appreciate my critics, those who insult and those who do constructive criticism, because both give me a level in which I should play.
But then you get into what we call TWIFs or Twitter wars, especially with another controversial blogger, Robert Alai. What's your relationship with him at the moment?
Actually, I think one day Edith invite me with Robert Alai. Robert Alai is one of my very good friends. Yes, I have a case against him in court. We are arguing not about me and Alai, but about the social media space. We want the court to make a determination on how social media space should be used, and we think a decision on that case will not send Alai to court. Neither will it will just make the social media space a good place to interact.
Speaking
Robert
of
Alai is my friend. That needs to go deeply into that.
I don't know about this friendship. I haven't taken any of my friends to court. to be fair,
we have taken social media space to court, and he has one opinion, I have another opinion. We are arguing for which opinion is best for social media space.
Okay, so speaking of social media, just before we go on the break, how did you get into that space? Because you're very vibrant. Even before you got the job, people knew who you were. How did you take advantage of this new media?
Actually, what most people don't know is that I resigned from the Voice of America, where I was the East African correspondent for Voice of America, to start a blog. And when I started that blog, and I had a mentor at that time who helped me construct the blog in the name of Commissioner Kamodho Waiganjo, who really helped me put up that space. Then I got on Twitter and Facebook, and just started building. For me, I got to social media not to talk about what I'm doing, but a conversation. I take social media as a conversation, and I converse as truly as I can. That is why on my personal space...
Are you still able to do it right now, though? in your capacity as the director?
Actually, that's where I was going. One of the things that I've done, if you look at my official pages, whereas like my Twitter page is verified, I have removed the bit of my official title, because I've studied some of the decisions made in Canada, Australia, and Britain, which informs our law because we rely on Commonwealth law. And I've seen that people who did not associate what they do in their office and maintain as personal spaces allows them to do their personal individual spaces. So on my personal individual spaces, I am Dennis. On government communication, I've created institutions which communicate for government, because it's not Dennis, it is a space.
Okay, time now to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about Dennis, not the space that you're talking about, not this digital director. And we'll be talking about this war we have going on. I don't believe that you're supporting Germany. So please, can you introduce this break? I'm actually quite upset.
Well, we're now going to take a...
introduce it on this chip. Yeah, that's
okay. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and after the break, we're going to come back and hustle about Brazil and Germany, and I'm going to be recruiting her.
Don't... We're continuing to receive your feedback on the KTN's guest anchor, but first, let's have a look at business. And Kenya's large educated workforce is one of the reasons investors prefer setting up shop in the country. But while the country can boast about having many graduates, it still has a 40% unemployment rate. And experts say lack of technical training institutions could be to blame. Adelaide Changole has this report.
Kenya ranks among Africa's most educated populations, with record numbers of people joining and graduating from institutions of higher learning every year. But of these graduates, only a negligible few are graduating from vocational training schools, with the overwhelming majority preferring university education.
Vocational training that has become less fashionable in our societies. It's become much more fashionable to send your kids to university to do big MBAs.
The situation has been worsened by the fact that several polytechnic colleges offering technical training have been converted into constituent universities, leaving the job market to the burgeoning population of educated workers that lack requisite skills.
Technical education, vocational training, it's as dignified as going to university, and frankly, for the labor market, it's a scarce commodity.
This disconnect between what the market needs and what is being churned out has been cited as one of the factors fueling unemployment in some countries.
And again, it's bringing back the value of technical professions and technical skills that in some of our societies have been forgotten.
Human capital is about mathematics and science, is about creating that artisan class who we in manufacturing actually want.
So while education remains critically important, the experts say the country must strike a balance to ensure there is adequate skills diversity to fill all the needs of the market.
We have to become better educated. Education is key, but that education can come in multiple forms. We need doctors, we need nurses, we need drivers for our ambulances, we need cleaners for the hospitals, and the market has to be able to churn enough of everything in this whole chain.
Adelaide Changole, KTN Business.
Interesting to note that of the 40% unemployed, 70% of that number is the youth. Let's have a look at other matters now. And the government's commitment to transform Kenya into an aviation hub is finally taking shape as the new terminal at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport comes to completion. Terminal 1A is one of the projects being undertaken by the government and other stakeholders to position the country as a destination of choice for international airlines. KTN's Charles Kitonga toured the facility and brings us this report.
The aviation industry in Kenya has experienced tremendous changes in the recent past as the government seeks to improve its efficiency. Top of the list has been increasing capacity of major airports through infrastructure expansion. At the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, final touches are being made on Terminal 1A. The terminal is expected to add 2.5 million passengers at the airport's traffic of 6.5 customers a year.
This is a culmination of an extensive operational readiness and airport transfer, or RAT, exercise that started in November 2013.
Kenya Airports Authority has today conducted a dry test of the terminal using Kenya Airways flight of 60 passengers to Lamu, with more tests planned for the next week. The authority will then open the terminal for partial operation, and commercial flights will use the facility for the next 3 weeks to destinations within East Africa.
Kenya Airways will start operating 4 commercial regional flights daily for the next 3 weeks.
Completion of Terminal 1A comes as good news to national carrier Kenya Airways, who will be the primary users together with its SkyTeam partners. The airline has been upbeat about their facility, which will not only increase their capacity, but also improve connectivity for their fleet.
We are working very closely with KA, and I'd like to assure Kenyans that whatever has been provided here is equal to any international terminal outside.
This comes amid the ongoing construction of the Greenfield Terminal. The 178,000 square meters facility will increase the airport's capacity to 20 million passengers annually once completed in 2017.
The completion of this new terminal at JKIA and ongoing construction of 20 million passenger terminal project will be significant landmarks in development of air transport infrastructure.
JKIA was opened in the 1970s to handle 2.5 million passengers annually, but saw that number shoot to 6 million as its regional importance grew. While stretched to capacity, no investment had been made to upgrade the facility until the August 17, 2013 fire that appeared to jolt the government into action. A temporary terminal is also under construction at the airport, with new taxiways also being put up to accommodate the increasing number of airplanes. Charles Gitonga, KTN, Business.
Listing activity is set to resume at the Nairobi Securities Exchange, with a mid-sized company entering the fray. The Flametree Group, makers of Roto Tank and cosmetic brand Zoe, says it plans to list by the end of 2014. Flametree will list on the growth and enterprise market of the NSE, where the requirements are less restrictive. And in a statement, the manufacturer says the listing is meant to give access to the capital markets, which offer more affordable funding either through debt or equity required to fuel future growth. Flametree has 3 divisions spread across manufacturing of plastic goods, fast-moving consumer goods, while the other is a Welcome back. Let's now have a look at our World in Pictures segment. And our tour begins in the West Bank. And this is a picture of Mohammed Abu Kadari's parents. And what happened, actually this was during the funeral. He was a 17-year-old who was found charred near his home in the West Bank. And his family are Palestinians who believe that he was killed in a revenge attack after 3 other young Israelis were killed in June. Now following this, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu blamed the deaths on Hamas, calling on the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas to abandon a reconciliation deal that had been struck. Police have not yet identified the cause of his death, although investigations are still underway. Most observers, why this story is important, most observers see this death as the catalyst to possibly what is widely viewed as a simmering war between Palestine and Israel, of course, over the West Bank. Let's have a look at the next picture in our World in Pic Roundup. A mosquito, how nice. This one is about a report, a very interesting one, by researchers in Penn State University on malaria, and specifically how mosquitoes behave around persons who are infected with malaria. Now, according to the research, mosquitoes are able to smell bodies infected with malaria, and more than that, they're drawn to them, which makes them targets for more mosquito bites and wider spread of the disease. So the reason why this story is important is the scientists and how they did it was basically put mice in a lab, infect some mice with mosquitoes, in fact some mice with malaria, and then see how the mosquitoes behaved. 40% of the mosquitoes were drawn to the non-infected mice, while 60%, which was a majority, were attracted to the ones who were infected with malaria, which shows how insects are able to manipulate their hosts in order to spread the virus. And the last picture takes us to the United States. It's probably a face that you've seen on your social media. On your social media, what are they called again? Yeah, those ones, feeds. He is a convicted felon who needs at least, they're saying, 1-point-something million in bond, and that's in dollars, for committing 7 felonies, which includes street terrorism and other charges like resisting arrest. Well, the dreamy blue-eyed felon, now aptly known as Dreamy McMug, shot to fame for the popularity of his picture on Facebook, which has got now more than 100,000 likes. By the way, this picture is a mugshot and was posted on a police Facebook page. So word is that this guy got a modeling contract, but the Huffington Post reports that it's actually not true. The Post says that after speaking to representatives of Bulletin, the modeling agency he's allegedly signed to, they said that it was all hogwash. There's been people who are spreading that rumor, saying that he's going to come back and model, but sadly he won't. He's going straight to jail. Yep, there we have it in our World in Pictures this evening. And that takes us back to our guest anchor this evening. How are you feeling? How do you think you did?
Oh, well, I'm giving myself 50%. I have 50% to cover. At least I'll make sure I get to 20. Pass. Good enough.
Okay, fine. We'll get back to that in just a short while. Right now, though, let's have a look at how people pronounce certain words. We gave them today 2 words. First one being G-O-U-G-E, which means to scoop or to excavate. And the second one is G-O-R-G-E. Let's see how they performed.
It is a gouge. Gorge.
Gorge. Gog.
This is gorge. This is gorge because there's an O. But with this one, there's a O and a U. So from my English teacher, I guess it should be gorge. Gorge.
Sizinakata kufanana. Goose. Ama gorge. Gorge. Goge. Yani kama goge. Alafu ya pili ni gog.
Kwanza ni gorge, ya pili ni gouge.
Ya kwanza gouge, second one gorge.
Gorge and gorge.
Gorge and gouge. Gog. Gog.
Time now to link up with our man in Kisumu. We're talking about Willis, the word master, whose real name is actually Willis Ocheng. We forget that. How are you, Willis?
I'm doing good, Edith. How are you in Nairobi?
Nairobi is slightly cold, but we're hanging in there. Now, Willis, before we start, someone told me that your laughter is scripted because you always laugh the same way. See what I mean? Yeah.
I understand, but mine is just that.
Okay, fine. Let's start on that laughing note with the words of the street today, the words on the street. We said the first one to scoop or to excavate, as in to G-O-U-G-E, your eyes out. How do you pronounce this?
Well, Edith, many people find themselves mispronouncing this word as gorge, which is not the correct pronunciation. We pronounce this word with a diphthong, that is a dual vowel glide, ow. So we say gouge. To gouge, eyes out. Gouge, not gorge.
Okay, so I suppose gorge is G-O-R-G-E, the narrow valley between hills.
Yes, when we talk about a narrow valley with steep sides, there we talk about a gorge with a long vowel O. Gorge.
So gorge and gouge, not Goa, not George, gorge and gouge. All right, our second word for today is what military personnel would do on the field when they wear their fatigues. Are they camouflaged, or camouflaged?
Well, that word is camouflage. So the very tricky sound there is j at the terminal part of that word. That is the final syllable. J. You say camouflage, not camouflage, not camouflage. And we also have the word sabotage. Sabotage, which many people say sabotage, which is not the correct pronunciation. So, camouflage.
Camouflage. Okay. The next word is one which we've come across a lot of times, especially if you work in an office. It is an executive office, executive. How exactly are you meant to pronounce this word?
Edith, what I've had for so many years, which I feel is very funny sometimes, is executive. That I don't know where it comes from, but this word is simply pronounced as executive, and we also say executive. So the two pronunciations are acceptable, but executive, no. So executive or executive. Just like we talk about consecutive or consecutive, not consecutive.
Okay, got you. Our next word is coming to us from Baraka Omato, and he wants to know, what is the past tense of to draw? I drew, I drew. What's the proper way to pronounce this word?
That name, Baraka Omato, reminds me, he was asking me something in the Twitter that is about lunch and ranch, when we have the fluids sound L and R. But now that he talks about past tense of draw, we say drew. There is no vowel glide when we are pronouncing that word. It's drew. Just like we talk about through, grew, flew, brew, not brew, flew, grew, threw. No.
Okay.
Drew.
Willis, we have just enough time for a surprise word this evening. What is it?
My surprise word, in first place, my headphone is misbehaving. Maybe it's the first surprise to me. So we have the word here, rapport. Many people talk about rapport, to strike a rapport, which is very wrong. We say to strike a rapport. Just like when we are talking about a depot, we should not say depot, beer depot, not beer depot or depot. So rapport is my surprise word for tonight, Edith.
All right, thank you very much, Willis. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for. We'll see you again next week, and we'll see if you laugh the same way.
Well, I have that as my system, and I have to remind people, Edith, good pronunciations, standard pronunciations are meant for people who are in careers of serious communication, like broadcasters or the broadcast journalists. We have also lecturers or teachers. We have marketers, legal practitioners, or diplomats. Not everybody can pronounce English words well, or other languages.
Okay, so anyone who was not able to pronounce gouge or god should take comfort. Right, that's a good place to end Mind Your Language this evening. Willis, we'll see you next week. Until then, that was Mind Your Language.